What's up, bookworms? Welcome to episode 97 of the Cantina Book Club podcast, where readers can find interviews with authors of all genres. I'm Megan, self-proclaimed content queen, here to bring you insights from the authors themselves. Each week features a Cantina conversation with an author. Sometimes they're returning guests, sometimes they're brand new. So please be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on an episode. And feel free to browse through previous episodes so that when you're finished, there's probably an interview waiting for you when you're ready. Just a heads up that I often use adult language to express my feelings of the work, whether the characters need to get their shit together or I'm encouraging the badass FMC to just say fuck it all and burn it all to the ground. Just be mindful around listening ears. So books coming out next week, The Alchemy of Flowers by Laura we saw, and we just had a Cantina conversation released last week. So those readers who are looking forward to reading that book or have finished, check out the previous episode for the interview with Laura. And today's guest is also, of course, Gone to Ground by Morgan Hatch. That's coming out on July 31st. Today in podcast features, they're talking about this week are the Script podcasts and Must Love Books podcasts. So if any of you are looking for different types of bookish podcasts to listen to, other insights different from your own, different from my own, check out the group Book Podcast Connection, a group of over 100 bookish podcasts that you can listen to. I really encourage you to check it out. Today's episode features a chat with Morgan Hatch. We're talking about his book, Gone to Ground. That book is available on July 31st. I really enjoyed this conversation with Morgan and learning how his experience as a public school teacher in LA inspired the book and his experiences as a debut author and what he plans for the future. Give this a listen, give Gone to Ground a shot, and without further ado, here is Morgan Hatch. So today we've got Morgan Hatch. We're talking about his book, Gone to Ground, that is coming out on July 31st. Morgan, thank you so much for joining me today. I finished this book. It's fresh in my brain. I have a couple bones to pick with you, specifically during the last 30 pages. It's good bones. My jaw dropped, and this is your debut, impressive debut. I was so hooked and I didn't want to stop reading. So I'm glad to dig a little bit deeper.
That's great. My wife actually just finished it, and she had a few questions as well. And she has an excellent eye for details, and so when she pointed out all the things that I thought I had tied up and they weren't in fact tied up, I had to go back and make some last minute changes. So actually, the version that you've read is it's probably 95% of what's going to get published. But yeah, my wife she could be an editor. She would be a
Yeah,
very good editor, and she brought some things to my attention, which anyway, debut.
she's your live-in beta reader, a reader, whatever. She's in your corner. You got to have people in your circle. But yes, by the time the book officially releases, hopefully you'll have all that polished off. But I will say, from my perspective, even without those little last minute edits from your wife, I'm gonna be, my opinion is favorable. So no worries. Hey, for your debut, I would be surprised if you did not run into that. It's just from I talk to all sorts of authors who are either that's their debut or they have published 20 books or they're switching genres. Like they have written a certain genre and then they're switching genres or they're switching age groups, stuff like that, going from adult to YA or vice versa. So honestly, your first draft, second draft, third draft, they're drafts for a reason. Again, I would be surprised if you didn't have kinks to work out. Like you're not going to be immaculate, 100% amazing, 10 out of 10 your first go around. I would say this is higher rating because I was like, so before, for my first impressions, I think maybe at the beginning, it was just like me trying to get into a new book, getting into a new world, getting used to your writing style, getting used to like just really, but that's like almost any reader trying to start a new book for the first time. You just get your groove. And then once I did, and then once the story picked up and the stakes were raised and we got to know all the characters and stuff, then I was like, oh. And then I was like ready to, I just know that like, because I take notes, and as my notes progress, as the story progresses, they get a little more unhinged where I'm like, holy shit. So you got the reactions and all that. And I will recommend this book accordingly to people who like the suspense or maybe because and then we'll get all into it. So
Yeah.
just start off with the kind of research that you did that didn't come off from like, and so her mom, my grandmother's family was like, they were living in Texas since before it became Texas. So there were just generations that were living there before the border moved. You know what I mean? Like what few hundred years ago, where that Texas like that part of Mexico became Texas. So, and my mom makes jokes like nobody's kicking us out. So it's just, there's so many nuances. There's so many little things going on. Like people just don't, a lot of people just see, oh, illegal versus legal or brown versus half or versus white. And so it's like with educators like yourself, I appreciate you guys for just, you're rolling with it and you're trying to understand. And like how you mentioned before with you teach English, which is crazy because that's what I was studying when we talked earlier, when I decided I should not be a teacher, but I was studying English and there was such a challenge that was a known challenge where there was kids whose first language was not English and they're smart, but they can't read the test. They can't comprehend the tests in the way that their English speaking and native speaking classmates can. And so it's like they're just as intelligent, they're just as capable, but the assessment that you put in front of them, they're not, it's not fair. But then it's an evaluation of their intelligence. And there were like little things, little clues that you put in your story as well as your second Javier's friends who was like they were intelligent, they were street smart, and they could catch on. But even you did mention that the teachers knew, they kind of let it slide because they knew that they'd be okay. They knew that they'd be okay without a public education. And so that's just kind of like how I related to your story and how I sympathize with your characters, where it was just like I feel for that. And the fact that you're an educator and you use so much of your background to tell this story, I'm like, that just makes me so much more of a sucker for it. I'm like, I understand it a little bit more. If I can't relate to it, I understand it.
Yeah, you obviously, it's nice to hear, to have a conversation with someone who's picked a book. I've sent out review copies. I've had some reviews, but to hear someone interact and let me know what their perspective is, you've obviously got a good handle on it. It is a hard book to, I think, track everything and to maintain a sense of the plot. You as a reviewer need to get a good review for being able to stay with the story as well as you did. I've come to appreciate simple writing. I do love language. I do love coming up with clever ways of saying things. And sometimes I get, I get too, I spend too much time trying to come up with a clever way of saying something that you could say something more simply. And that usually is, I like to read books that use language. They take time crafting a sentence. The structure is a lot of metaphor, analogy, but it doesn't reach too far, because when it reaches too far, then it just really sticks out. But people like Dennis Lehane, Richard Price, they are two of the writers that I've always thought, wow, they use language really artfully, and it became a different experience than if just prose like a Michael Connolly or someone who's just straightforward. But those guys, a lot of them, it's almost like newspaper writing. They write in a clear, compelling, straightforward, linear fashion. And a good suspense novel it's hopefully gonna.
It's tricky. It's tricky to know
Yeah,
because when I interview authors, they're like, "Did you ever want to write a book?" I'm like, "Nope." It's just so challenging and it's so much time. I bet I could do it if I really wanted to, but I would just doubt myself every step of the way, and then I'd be so self-conscious, and then it would take me like so many years, and then I'd be like, "This is trash. Why am I even doing it?" Because I guess there's just so much that I'm aware of,
yeah,
so much
yeah.
that you guys need to do, and I just get impressed with, and then like with the self-publishing, because you're like, this is your debut, but this is self-published, correct? Like,
It's coming out with Black Rose. They are,
okay, yay,
yeah. No, it does have a
yay.
publisher. They,
Oh, good for you. Okay, because I was gonna
yeah,
say I think I read it like as because when you were reached out to me, were you
yeah,
self-published when you reached out to me? Like back, I don't know, in February or some shit like that?
yeah. It was. I signed with Black Rose.
Okay, I'm remembering some other different
No,
things with someone else, but like,
it's honestly The
What are some big
issue
lessons
itself,
learned from your debut? What is something that you were unexpected? I want to explore your experience in this whole process.
I'm trying to do more planning up front. When I started doing Gone to Ground, it was completely just one chapter and then the next and then the next. I had no idea where it was going to go. This one, I have, I think, a little bit more of an idea. The story's going to pick up with 6, 8 years into the future. And he's now motivated to still pursue Jones. Something's happened to his mother, which has motivated him to pursue his career in finance. I don't want to say too much, but I've
Yeah,
got
I
a
was,
little.
I was just curious as to how your whole experience as a debut author, you got signed and like just going through the whole publishing process and release process and printing and all that stuff. And the book's not out yet, but so I imagine you still got a month of like shit to go through. There's like just getting ready for your debut. Let me see here. I want to hit some more hard hitting questions because I still
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
pick on you. I want to pick on you a little bit.
sure.
What were the most challenging parts to write? What were the most enjoyable parts to write?
Let's say, the hardest one, I don't do romance very well. I try to have a romantic relationship with Javier and Leslie, and it's very chaste. It comes out very chaste. And
They're
it
high
was hard.
schoolers. You don't want to.
Yeah, and he's not one to chase girls. He's not a no, he's
No,
not at
but
all.
I love how you. Sorry to interrupt. I love how you presented him. He was just like he went after this one girl,
Yeah.
and he listened to her laugh. And that's what women love. That's what we eat that shit up. Where I was just like, or he gets the tingles of her holding his hand, like
Yeah.
those little things. But I found that male writers they are like, it's
Yeah. I know.
yeah, it's okay. But I love that. I love that.
It's hard for me to pull that off. So that was a
Was that
challenge.
what if your wife was like, oh, hey, can I explore this a little more? Or what did she have any comments to say about the romance
She
of it?
did. She did. She did.
No, she had bigger fish to fry of
I should ask. She, yeah, I should ask her what her thoughts
it's
are.
okay. We don't have to talk about the romance part of it. We can continue with the answer to the question. I'm a
Well,
sucker for romance and I love talking to men who are trying to approach that topic. I think it's great.
what's interesting because I know this book is mostly male figures, and I know that the most books are purchased by women. Most readers are women, and this is I guess it's a very male centric book. And actually, the next book is going to Bethsaida is going to carry more weight, and she's going to actually her storyline is going to be more the emotional core. And I like Bethsaida. She is an interesting character. She's no nonsense, and she drives her tow truck, and she's got a good attitude. But let's see. I did writing. I think my favorite chapter is when Alex he has his one. He has the moment where they're going to go to the train, and there's something on the train that he's responsible. He and his friend Chuco are supposed to go and pick up, and they're hitting the tequila to get themselves ready to go and do this thing. And it all goes sideways, and there's gunfire, and there's people, the cartels show up. That was probably the funnest that was the most fun I had writing the chapter was that because I thought there was good action, some clever dialogue. It was funny and then tragic at the same time. But even that chapter right there it's a set piece basically. And that's, I think Gone to Ground is a collection of different little set pieces, and that's great. But as a coherent novel, there needs to be a better through line. So this next novel is not going to be quite as disjointed as Gone to Ground, hopefully.
You've learned a lot
Yeah.
from your wife. From
Yeah.
and maybe hopefully you'll learn you stuff like that where you'll have a little insight into seeing things that maybe you want to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, no. I honestly think like for your debut, I didn't know what to expect because I do a lot of trad and indies, and I do respond to people like you who reach out to me directly and be like, oh, okay, I love reading no matter what. I'm a big bookworm. I like eat them like strawberries. I will finish it, but like I finished your book in a couple days because of, and because you read it, you wrote it so well, where it was easy for me to like just keep going. I wanted to know what was going to happen. I wanted to know where you were going and where these pieces that you laid out. But then as you're learning from this first release, then you're going to learn how you want to approach your second one. And that's just so natural. That's a part of it. And it's, don't stress out. It's part of the process. And I'm like, again, even if you wrote, I don't want to say this, but even if you wrote a trash novel with a great cliffhanger, I would still be waiting for. But it's just, no, you did not write a trash novel. You did not like, you incorporated so many things and storylines and parts that all came together, and that you found a way to fit it all at the end. And, but again, how you illustrated like your frustrations or like kind of things maybe you weren't aware of that you became aware of from feedback. I appreciate all of that. I appreciate your process. I respect your process, and I know it's part of it. And it's but I'm just one type of reader, so don't. But I will tell you, it's an agreed upon author opinion. Don't read your reviews. Do not read your reviews.
For real. Is that what authors say? They read your reviews?
Yeah, I don't know if you're part of any author groups, if you have any, just like people who you can feed off of, like people, because there are writer groups out there. There might be writer groups like in LA, stuff like that, where
There are.
you could just join. Hey, anybody want to check out my debut? It's releasing, or it has released, whatever. If even a couple months down the line and you're looking for feedback from fellow authors, either they've written like a million books or they've written like one, you could talk to them and get their feedback. But a lot of it's like the general consensus is that don't read your own reviews because you might come across things that you get hung up on. Where it's and people and reviews can arguably be like reader spaces versus author spaces. If I write a review or if I share a review on Instagram, I won't always tag the author. Even if it's like a 4 or 5 star review, I won't always tag them. But if it is like when I'm releasing the podcast episode, I will absolutely tag you because I want you to share it to your people too. But it's just, I don't know. It's just because you could get stuck down a rabbit hole of people nitpicking at things when it's just some of the stuff that they're hung up on can be explained. It's, oh, I didn't like it because my ex was named the same, or they used the same name as a character as my ex, or, oh, this was stupid, and then just left it at that. It's no, if you want to read constructive criticism, absolutely. But like, if that's for your editors, if that's for maybe fellow authors who like can help you with your craft. But as far as like readers, it's like they might read your book and then move on to the next one. You know what I mean? It's like they'll write the review and then move on to the next one. But I would say just don't, it's a slippery slope. You could read your own reviews, but it's a slippery slope. That's all, that's all I will say. Because otherwise I'm usually in my reviews, I'm kind. Like, I try to be real, but I'm kind because I know that my taste isn't everybody's taste. So something that might bug me or that I'm not into, like, for example, one of my best friends since high school, she is a self-published dark romance writer. I love romance. I'm a sucker for that. I don't like dark romance. I'm not into that, but I'm like, I better read for her. I proofread for her. I buy copies of her books. I am her plus one at book events because I'm always going to be in her corner, even though if she's not like like what I would buy. I would not shop for her, but I will support her no matter what. And she knows that. She knows that. She even says, I know this isn't your thing. And so I appreciate you for being there for me. So she gets that. So when I proofread it, I'm like, I'll write notes like, meh. And she knows, she gets it. So I'm going to rate a romance different than I'm going to rate like a suspense, different than I'm going to rate like a memoir. So it's getting familiar with all that. But not all readers are diligent. Not all readers are meticulous like that. I'm one person. I host a podcast and I review books and I'm crazy. So I'm just like one person. I'm one person. So don't use me as a baseline. Use me as like your debut feature.
Yeah, but you're a voracious reader. You read a lot. And so you read
And I
probably
don't,
wide breadth too of genres and short stories, long stories, everything in between. You're actually you have a lot of material from which to draw your opinions and your.
yeah. And I don't being mean. And I
It's
usually I almost always say yes. And then one of my authors that I interviewed, he was following my reviews and he saw me rate something like 2 stars and he was really surprised. I think it was even like a Frederick Bachman. I forget what his name is, but the guy who wrote A Man Named Uva. But I forget what he wrote. He wrote like Anxious People, but I listened to it, an audiobook, and I didn't like it. Then again, book, whole nother story, whole nother book. But he was
right.
so beautiful, and I was like, honestly, I think it was my, I think it was my like attention span plus the narrator who made. I might if I was reading the book, in print, I might have had a different reaction, but that's just. But then again, I'm reading Brandon Sanderson, Starlight Archive. I'm on book 5. It's 250 hours of audiobook. It's to the point, and the narrators are great. The narrators are fantastic, where it's keeping me hooked, and it's keeping me in the story, and they're doing it so well. So that's also another point. I don't want to flood you with possibilities and make you more anxious, but I'm just saying for the reader experience, and I'm sure, like if you're a reader too, you've probably run into these same experiences as well.
Yeah, guys. There's one book that was Lincoln in the Bardo. I know that was like, oh my God, Lincoln in the Bardo. I don't know. It won all those awards. I couldn't finish it. It was horrible from my perspective.
It's
What
okay
it
to
was,
say it. I love it. I love to hear it.
but it was a darling of everybody. There's books out. There's a I.S. Berry. She just wrote a debut spy novel, and it's really good and it's really well written. And I gave her 5 stars because it's like a really well written book. It is, when you think of a 5-star book, it's like the creme de la creme.
Yeah.
They're about yeah. And so I gave her 5 stars. I said, she's a good read. She's down under 4 stars. And I'm thinking, how could people be giving her anything less than 4? Okay, maybe 4 stars. But anyway, yeah.
It's either like personal preference or like
Yeah.
they just expect more from her, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the only
I
thing I could think of. No, I guess of the tangent that we went off of, read your reviews at your own peril.
right.
Like, use it with a smart filter to like for your constructive criticism, but maybe not personal.
Yeah.
No, like,
Yeah, no, I have a few reviews out, and so yeah, there's a range, and because there's only a few, I am reading them. Hopefully, hopefully there'll be enough book sales and enough reviews that I'll get to the point where I can't read them all. Now I only have a few, so I've read them and I take them on. So
I
yeah,
know I
no,
try to when I write reviews, I sometimes peek at other people's reviews to
yeah,
see if like I missed anything or if there was something that I didn't notice. And then sometimes I find things where I'm like, their opinion, I'm like, that's stupid. Or I'll read their opinion. I'm like, that's so personal or that's stupid. Like you're totally missing this and that. But that's the beauty of the diversity of it and why you can't, that's just a show of like why you can't please everybody and you just don't break it if it's not, don't break or don't fix it if it's not broken and trust your process and learn how you have to learn. Then we went off on a tangent.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw this at you again. What advice do you have for Javier? What advice do you have for Alex?
Oh, good one. For Javier, let's see, the advice I would give him is Patel was he's like the teacher who gives him some hard truths. So he tries to give him, look, your family's going to be all right. Your family's going to live, even though you may think they can't survive without you. You have to think of yourself first. At some points in your life, you have to make your own decisions for yourself, and you have to be selfish. And your mom is going to be able to take care of Alex. You have to move on, and you have to get to not only college, but you need to be thinking about graduate school. And I think at some point he starts doubting himself. Maybe I do. And I'm not sure. I probably dialed it back a little bit. That in one iteration of the book, he starts thinking, you know what, maybe I should. He goes to, let's see, there's a backyard barbecue with Luke Bay. She has her scholarship board, And he's looking around and he sees all these high flyers. They're applying for scholarships, and they're the really sharp kids from all the Valley schools. And he's looking around and they're all schmoozing it up and they're all outgoing. And he's not very outgoing. He likes to do break jobs at bedside his shop. He's not very, I mean, he can converse, but he's not as charming as a lot of these other people. And he's starting to think, is this what college is? A bunch of charming people. And I'm not that. So maybe I should just go to community or state college out here. Then maybe I'll stick around and I'll work part-time with Bethsaida, dial back my ambitions because I ain't like those people over there. So he does go through a period of doubt. It probably was not as pronounced story as I had at one point envisioned it. But my advice would be obviously is to, yeah, you want to get to college, you want to expose yourself to opportunity that's out there. And I give it to I teach middle school, and ostensibly one of my roles was college promotion, college awareness, college this, college that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I guess I didn't the whole time we were talking. I didn't know what grade level you taught, which was huge because a couple of your main characters were middle school and high school.
High school, yeah. Yeah.
But you're like, I don't know. That's where it was like, oh,
Yeah.
poor Morgan.
Well, still, you got it coming up. You got double barreled the middle schoolers.
No, they're 4 and 7, and
Right.
the 7-year-old is already like calling me bruh. He's like he's already on to me. The 4-year-old is already on to me. He's gonna be 5 in November. They're already like repeating my own phrases against me, like, "Mommy, I'm trying to talk to you, but you're interrupting me." I'm like, okay, you're using your words and you're being constructive, but I am your mom. Look, I can still joke with them too. I'll be like, it's hilarious. Kids are hilarious, but so trying to take one day at a time and trying to appreciate the age group that I have because I know that with each year I'm at more risk of losing my cool mom status or my respectable mom status because I know by the time he's 10, he's gonna be like, whatever, mom, whatever. Mom." Like just 7th, 6th grade, he's gonna be
Yeah.
you know, and like he's probably they're already smarter than me. Like they're already I swear to God. Like I could go on about it, but like where I'm like the 4-year-old, the 7-year-old will come home with one of those origami or whatever, like the 4 questions where you're like, yeah. And then he brought home one of those and the 4-year-old used his tile magnets to try to replicate that shape. And it was like a sophisticated shape. But I told my therapist, I told my friends, I'm like, I think they're already smarter than me. I think they're already smarter than me. And I'm like, and I just got 2 boys and then the father. And then the only girl power that I have is the dog. The dog is also, I'm pretty sure we're done unless we have a noob's baby, but we're preparing to just give away we've already established that, okay, get rid of all the baby stuff. And I'm so excited to get rid of all the junk in my house. We're getting rid of all the baby stuff. So yeah, I know. Trust me, I'm right there where I don't want to prepare just yet because I'm still I'm still addressing the 5 to 7 or I don't know, 4th. No. So my youngest, he's going to be in kindergarten in like a year. So kindergarten to 5th grade, I'm still dealing with that.
Yeah.
They got like a 3-year age gap. So, and they're both boys. And I don't know, I'm like, and they're gross. So I'm just.
It's funny. I was right towards the end of my semester this year. I was doing a career panel. So I invite different people that come and talk to our kids. We have physicians, we have attorneys, engineers, we had a LA Times reporter. They do a panel. And I needed somebody because the professionals, they come in, they park in the teacher parking lot and I wanted somebody to just meet them at the gate, introduce themselves. And I'm going to take you to the lecture hall. I needed a leadership students, and they had to be willing to present themselves and ask a few questions about them in the 2 minutes it takes to walk from the teacher parking lot to that would be able to
Like
do
you
that.
can rely on, and that you didn't have to walk through it. Yeah.
Boys are so immature, and the
Well, if the
girls,
age you're teaching, yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah.
But I'm
But
sure
it's
over
kind of
30 years you knew that.
it was a eye opener. I was said to ultimately get a couple of boys that do it, but it's really hard to get mature boys at this age. They're just really goofy, and the girls got it going on. Obviously, not all of them, but much more so. Who do you want to help out with a function? Ask a female student to do it because they're way ahead. They're way ahead. The boys,
Yeah.
it's weird, man.
And it's you don't want to necessarily lower the bar for them, but you're also like
Right.
respecting where they are. Like
Yeah.
it's just a reality of it. And it's just, and I have so much respect for teachers in general, but like middle school,
Yeah.
they're
It
assholes.
is. It is.
They're assholes. And I am so scared of dealing with bullying or cliques and teachers like I love teachers like you who are like you're aware and you're trying. That's what we got to deal with. This is what we got.
Parents send the best they got. They're not keeping the good ones home in the closet.
I would say that, but I don't know. My oldest, he's almost like an exact clone of my husband, which is like really good and really bad. But also like my second, he's got like second child energy for
Yeah.
real.
Yeah.
I used to joke he's a spawn of Satan because he's so cute and he knows it. And
Yeah.
every day he wakes up and he chooses violence. And I'm like, I don't know how to tell him like every day that is not okay. We don't do that. We don't like, and it's just because with the two of them, it's the Wild West. Like with the two boys, 4 and 7, it's the Wild West. And versus, and they're only gonna get like with the elementary school, they're only gonna get 2 years together, and then I don't think they're ever gonna get like a high school. They might get like freshman and senior year together. I think that's about it. Otherwise, because I don't know. I'm just taking one day at a time.
Yeah.
Just
You'll be ready
I
when
love them
August
so
rolls.
much, but I've also told them like, leave me alone. And I tell the dog the same thing. Leave me alone.
Look what they're learning. They're going, geez, mom is holding down a job and she's reading all these books and she's doing a podcast. Holy crap.
For all they know, no, it was funny because when I was coming in the house late, my 7-year-old was like, "Mommy, you're late." I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
Telling me I'm late?" And they're like, "Dad." And then both him and my husband was like, "Daddy said like you had an interview starting at 4." And I was like, "I already emailed him. We're okay. It's okay. I told him." And I was like, go to my 7-year-old. I was like, and then I was going to my husband, like, "Why did you tell him to game up on me?" And he's like, "No, you just heard me talk. You just heard me talk." Because as soon as I walked through the door, my 7-year-old was like, "Mommy, you're late for your interview." I'm like, "Excuse me, no." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I have to against." He tries to hold me accountable.
That's all you're
I'm
up
like,
against.
I'm the mother here. I'm the parent. I hold you accountable.
Well,
But
that's not
no,
what I
honestly,
want.
it's like, yeah, it's like they keep up with me. And I try to keep up with them. And it's whatever.
You'll be ready. You'll be ready for August to roll around and school to start back up, I'm sure.
Trust me. I'm like, the fact that my oldest is going to be a third grader is like crazy to me. It's so crazy to me. Because he's on like he just made the cutoff. So he's still not 8 yet. He's going to be 8 like after they start the school year. And so I feel bad for him because he's going to be turning 8 and then his classmates are going to be turning 9. And so it doesn't seem to bother him that much right now, but I feel like in about a few years it might start to bother him.
Right. Yeah.
It was either that or hold you back, which I didn't want to hold you back. I wanted you to go. That was like, I wanted to go to school. I wanted you to start your life. It was like, I was ready for you. Okay, so Morgan Hatch, what do you hope readers get out of Got to Ground?
Let's see. What do I hope they get out? Obviously, to be entertained. If it's not entertaining, if the story doesn't move you along, then it's failed. I certainly want them to feel like the surprises are genuine. The payoff is the characters are interesting. I want them to feel like they've spent time. It's nothing worse than reading a book and you're going, I just got to finish this. I'd like them to take away. Part of the ambition was the word super hard. I honestly think kids like Javier, they're immigrant kids, and to me, they're the best of what this country has to offer. I totally think they're all over the place. And right now in this climate where there's so much focus on the negativity, and Javier is he kicks ass, man. I really respect the kid. And like I said, I always had a handful of Javiers in my classes throughout the years. And I just always thought, man, that these kids should be the next presidents of the United States because they are mature. They've got a good sense of themselves. They don't get involved in all the stuff. So
Because they
I'd
know
like
they
to,
don't want to ruffle any feathers.
yeah,
So many
yeah,
immigrants, they just keep their heads down and do what they're
exactly.
model citizens because they just want to come here for what we have to offer. And
Right.
I think that's not what the loud people say.
Yeah,
I
especially,
know I'm sympathizing. I'm agreeing with you. I know that there are obviously, like, there are troublesome people who are natural born, like born here. Let's
no doubt.
ship off the troublemakers that were born here, who had no control over where they were
Yeah.
born. They just hit the lottery, they got the inheritance. They were just lucky. And no, I like I said, I feel like I'm in a position to sympathize with that. But no, I absolutely agree. Yes, we're not, both of us are not ignorant to the realities of what goes across the border, but we can't use that to blanket. Like, there are people who absolutely could cure cancer who just don't know how to read English yet. It's just like, I don't question that people who are coming from other countries are smarter than us. I don't question that at all.
Yeah.
It's just, unfortunately, there are so many obstacles in place. And then we would have fallen into another rabbit hole of privilege and all that shit. But Morgan Hatch, where can we find you online and on social media?
Let's see. My website is morganhatch.net, and it has all my social media links. Twitter, Twitter Morgan Hatch 310, which is the area code of my phone. Let's see. Facebook is Morgan Hatch author. Anyway, all my socials are on my website, morganhatch.net, along with a
Perfect.
little blog. And I'm actually, a lot of the things that are going on in LA right now are actually what I wrote about, particularly with ICE.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
So
I can imagine what you're going through right now, just as a educator on the peak of retirement,
yeah,
newly retired, and having to step away from these things that you know so much about.
yeah,
Like, you have been involved in this for decades, and for you to be like, oh shit, I'm stepping away right when this I can't, yeah, that's like such a fascinating dynamic for you. I
yeah.
can't, I feel like that would have been another conversation in itself.
Maybe when the sequel gets finished, that we can pick it up where we leave off.
Absolutely. I was going to say, when and if you're ready to release a sequel, I would love to keep in touch. Morgan Hatch, Gone to Ground. I recommend this to people who maybe like are amateur sleuths or crime fiction, but just exploring those genres. And this is such a strong debut. I've really enjoyed it. Towards the end, I was losing my shit, and I feel like that's a sign of a good book, good writing, all that good stuff. And yeah,
That's going to be my next. I'll put that on the website. Losing my shit, Megan.
you can quote me at Cantina Book Club.
Yeah.
I lost my shit. During the last 30 pages, I lost my shit. You can quote me, no problem. Yes, Morgan Hatch, Gone to Ground, available on July 31st. Thank you so much for your time, for your patience, for your answers, for letting us get a glimpse into your life, how it related to this book. And again, when and if you're ready to talk about the next one, I'll be here ready for you.
Megan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for making this my debut about my debut as easy and pleasurable as it was. So thank you for that. Yeah, I look forward to talking again soon.
And there you go. That was Morgan Hatch talking about Gone to Ground. That book is available on July 31st. Check out the show notes where you can find links to purchase the book and where to find Morgan online and on social media. Please be sure to find Cantina Book Club online and on social media, on YouTube and your favorite podcast player like Apple and Spotify. Check out the website where you can find book reviews and the links to author interviews, and where you can find the pages and where you can find Cantina Book Club on your favorite podcast player. Rate, review, subscribe. If you're finding books that you really like and you want the author to keep writing and keep putting out more work, one of the easiest ways to support them is to hop on over to Goodreads and Amazon and give them a review, or any other book review or book community websites that you want to share your thoughts. Please be sure to give them a shout out. It's one of the easiest and cost-effective ways to support them. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening.